Okay, welcome back to the Revisionist Almanac, part of the Movie Archer Podcast Network. I'm Andrew, and we're back for another monthly recap to cover everything we watched in April. I'm, of course, joined by my teammate, my friend, my partner, Heather Stewart. Heather, how was your April?
It was a mixed bag. In film, work, life, mixed bag. Applies everywhere. Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever you were asking me about, it applies. Mixed bag.
Same over here. It's been a chaotic month, to say the least.
But where's it gone? I feel like we literally just talked about March like a week ago. What's happened?
Yeah. What's funny, though, is more than probably any other month, we have veered in completely different roads on our watch list trajectory this month, because I've watched a bunch of stuff that you haven't watched and vice versa, and we will get through all of that here.
Yeah.
Let's start with the one that you and everyone else seems to continually scold me about having not seen. That is the drama.
Not Project Hail Mary.
We're not even going to get into Project Hail Mary. I'm still so far behind on that one. You know what? I'm going to blame it on Emily from the Adapt Me podcast, because she's having me on her show over the summer to talk about the movie. And so I'm waiting to watch it for her around June. Sure. So,
yeah. First of all, you were waiting to finish the book, and now you've got this book. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah. As it has been pointed out to me before, I'm lazy and I'm unprofessional when it comes to podcasting.
Absolutely. But, in fact, actually, just like me, you should just stay home and just watch movies. Just don't go into the theater anymore. Just don't do it.
That's right.
Because we're toxic. That's right. We're bringing our toxic energy.
Let's talk about the drama, though, because we've already covered this movie briefly when we did our Robert Pattinson Zendaya episode with Amanda earlier in the month, and you had already seen the movie. It was pretty fresh in your mind still.
Yeah.
You've now had a few more weeks to kind of settle with it, let other people see the film, see the discourse that's happening online around the movie, without going into like a ton of depth spoiler territory. How has the movie sat with you for over the time that you've seen it?
I don't think I've had a single day go by where I haven't thought about this movie. Yeah. And I'm not going to say it's my favorite of the year, because that still is sitting with the Bone Temple. But it is absolutely number 2. Sorry, Project Hail Mary fans, right? The drama is number 2. And it has only risen in my estimate. So I really want to see it again, because since I saw it, the discourse and the discussion has been so great. Even if people haven't necessarily enjoyed the film, they've still been able to get a lot from it, because it opens up discussion. It's like, well, what would you do if? So like, even taking out, you say, oh, maybe some people didn't like the premise. They were triggered a bit by it. Ultimately, the discussion is, what would you do if you found out that somebody you were close to, somebody you were maybe going to marry, wanted to share a life with, if they had a deep secret? And I said in my review, I actually went quite personal in my review for a change. So I know Jen and Sarah from Movies Enough like my one sentence snarky summaries, but there I had to go a little bit deeper, because as I said in my review, when I was like 20 or so, I was out in a pub crawl in Germany with a bunch of people I didn't really know from student halls of residence, and one of them was very, very drunk. And I am British. I have a sarcastic sense of humor. This was in Germany. He was very drunk. He was like double my weight and everything. I said something. He took his hand, for people who are not watching in video, he took like kind of, what's this called, like the base of his hand, and he banged it against my forehead with his full weight, and banged me, little me, like about 110, 120 pounds, like against a like wall, basically the back of my head, because I'd said something he didn't like. And he generally is just a really nasty guy, misogynistic, sexist. He also found out some secret about me, that not a bad secret, but he just blabbed it. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Anyway, and he never changed really. So I avoided him as much as I could and everything. And one time I then met his future wife, and I often thought to myself, what would happen if she'd ever known about his history? And of course I never said anything, because, not my place. But I do wonder, it makes you think, if it's kind of not a big deal, but it was kind of, he was like that. He would get drunk or even not, and he had a very violent side to him. And I often think, well, what would have happened? Or would it have changed her mind? Would she have had kids with him? What would have happened? And this, I forgot about that for a few years, but this film really brought it up again. And that's the kind of thing I think everybody can relate to it, even if they don't relate to the premise of the Zendaya character's secret. I think everybody is something we think, well, what if I found that out? Or what if that person had found that out about that other person? Mm-hmm. Would it have changed anything? And also it deals with the topic of forgiveness. How much can you forgive? And what do intentions mean? Like if somebody didn't do something versus somebody didn't do something really terrible versus somebody but they thought about it, and somebody who did something also bad, maybe not quite as bad as the other thing if it happened. What's worse? The person who actually did something or the person who had these terrible thoughts? So it's been so interesting. And I love that. Like films that make you think and that everybody can engage with. I've been asking my husband, I say, hey, look, scenario, you find this out. And I've been hearing that from a lot of couples, that they've been coming home, seeing the movie and discussing it with their significant other and saying, what would you do if? So interesting. And my husband actually had a completely different view, because I was like, no, the person who's done something is worse than the person who thought something. He goes, yes, but why did that person get in that situation in the first place? Why did they have these thoughts? What was going on in their life? Could it happen again? Did they get therapy? All this kind of thing. I'm like, actually, he's got a point. God. And it's been so interesting. So,
well, you even said culturally, without getting into it, the topic that comes up in the film is different for American audiences versus European audiences.
Absolutely. I said this in my review, I think, as well, that I think a lot of how you will respond and react and how you weigh up each of the confessions probably does depend a lot on what you're used to, where you've grown up, what you've gone through perhaps as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, which is how old the characters kind of are when they have, these well, most of them have these secrets revealed. So yeah, I'd say, and even I think even people who haven't enjoyed the movie, just they've enjoyed the discourse so much, like in other discords that we've been in, just the conversation, people are like going, wow. They say, I wasn't very high in the movie. In fact, I hated it, they say, but I am loving this conversation, and maybe I need to reassess the film, because film's an art that makes you engage with it in such a way, in such a level, and to such depth. That's got to be valuable in some way, even if you didn't necessarily like the realization of it, the fact that it's making you think and have conversation and discourse. It's wonderful. I love that. So
it feels like a movie that's definitely going to click with me. It's like that's my kind of movie that makes me think post credits about all of the scenarios and everything. So I'm sure I will enjoy it.
I mean, there's certain parts of I said this as well that are actually quite, like, it felt, when I was watching, it felt quite kind of like superficial. I think there's places they could go further. A lot of it does feel a little bit rushed. The editing is great. There's a lot of really like high points. There's parts that could certainly be explored in more detail, but on the other hand, you are in and out in under 2 hours, and if you go into too much detail, you're losing the room for interpretation as well. So as I say, I really want to go and see it again. Now I've had like a month to sit with it and think about it daily, and have conversations about it daily. So yeah. Well, and we need more films like this. We need these mid sort of budget films, 2 movie stars leading it, and people are going out. It's over 100 at the box office, over 100 million, and this is what we need. So it's great that it's had that success and it's got people going out to see it. Word of mouth has been very strong, and people are I think they've got a feeling of like FOMO, like they need to go and see what people are talking about. So yeah, great.
It felt like A24 was starting to lose its identity a little bit a few years ago, where they were starting to make more and more bigger budget films. And this seems like maybe the pendulum is shifting back a little more to what kind of made A24, what this very unique position in the industry as a studio where they can make something on a little smaller budget and have it be something that's, maybe a little more controversial, a little more divisive, a little more talking about it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought that, but then I heard today, I think, that they've also got their biggest budget film ever, which is The Elden
Mm.
Ring, based on a
Oh,
video
yes.
game.
Yeah.
Sorry, like video games, as you will have noticed in our Discord. I'm like, no, never going in that channel ever. I cannot. But I've heard this is a video game and it is being made into a film. I have no idea who is in it. But A24 have that, and that's their biggest budget film. So there's also been that discussion. It's like, exactly to your point, are they trying to go too big budget? Have they lost their kind of, as you say, what they're known for? And I think they can, you know what? I think that they need that big budget one that's going to do very well, hopefully make lots of money. And that is how they're going to finance their, their many little interesting projects, perhaps. So.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, isn't that new horror film Backrooms also an A24 film?
Is it?
That
one. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Don't quote me on it, but I feel like that is, and that's made like on a much smaller scale. So I feel like they still, yes, they can maybe have their tentpole movie that makes them the money, but they still kind of know what their bread and butter is and who their audience core is. And I think that's very important. And for all the praise that Pattinson and Zendaya have been getting, I feel like I've been hearing the most about Alana Haim and her performance in the film.
She is so good in this. I mean, everybody is very good in this film, I have to say. But even the little side characters, like the photographer is amazing. Oh no, I can't even say why the photographer. Okay, once you see it, there are particular things that the photographer says, and the juxtaposition about what they have just been talking about is incredible. Anyway, or the dance instructor, all these tiny little bit parts, or the DJ, or so good. No, Alana Haim, she's probably the biggest antagonist in the film, I would say. While people think that it's the Zendaya character who has the worst secret, if you like, most people are actually, Alana Haim is actually she is the villain in this piece. So she's, not to say villain, but antagonist is probably the better word. There's a difference. Yeah.
I would have never anticipated her becoming this really talented actress. Like Licorice Pizza was.
Yeah, she was good.
She was good, but and then she popped up briefly in one battle after another.
Yeah,
she was
with the wig.
She
her and her wig popped up. Yes.
Yep. And she was perfectly fine in that movie.
Small part.
Yeah. It feels like maybe there's an evolution for her as an actress from what I've heard from this film.
She's really good. She's really good. I mean, she's a character you will love to hate at the end of it. And I think if that's the situation and people hate your character and they're supposed to hate you, you've done your job well. So.
Well, now we'll talk about the movie that I prioritized this month.
God, I dread to think what it is.
It's mainly because I have children, and it's the biggest box office movie of April, which is the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which you, of course, did not see because video games. So I will start by saying the previous Super Mario Brothers movie that came out roughly 3 years ago, I want to say, was very enjoyable. Had a good time with it, considering how little skeletal plot-wise things there can even be done with a Super Mario movie. So I went into this one relatively optimistic that it could be on the same level as the first one. And even before I saw it opening weekend, I started to see, Sean and Amanda were talking about it on The Big Picture, and everyone was already talking about how cynical the movie was and how much key jangling, I think was the word that I kept seeing get used, where it was just shiny objects on the screen. I tried to keep my own. I tried not to read too much into it and just go into it with an open mind. And I am so sad to report that they are all correct, in my opinion, on it was just, I have played all the Mario games, or a majority of them, over my life. So there's this natural, nostalgic chemical reaction that happens in your brain when you hear a certain sound or see a certain thing. But the movie is literally one Mario Easter egg after another stitched together without any, I mean, I understand you're not going to go into this expecting much plot, but at least give me something to cling on to. It was just edited so fast and so abruptly, and the scenes never really kind of made sense one after the other. It was rough, and I even dozed off at one point, which almost never happens to me at a movie
God,
theater.
even with that
And my
music,
even with all the intensity
Yeah.
of the colors and the sound, and my
It's
6-year-old
cartoon, right?
kind
It's
of like
animated.
nudged me. Yeah,
Because
it's
there wasn't
animated.
there was a
Yeah.
live action Mario.
There
Wasn't
was
there?
in the 80s, yeah. Yeah, with John Leguizamo and yeah.
Whatever, I know.
But no, I
Don't
mean,
know.
and also, they made a big deal in the press tour about the introduction of Yoshi, who's obviously a prominent character in the Mario world, and Donald Glover was doing the voice, and people were very excited. I'm a huge Donald Glover fan, and he says the word Yoshi like 6 or 7 times. I don't know. It was like a giant nothing burger of a voice performance, which is also a larger problem for me with these 2 Mario movies now. Is the voice acting is really distracting in terms of like Chris Pratt as Mario. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Jack Black does perfectly fine as Bowser. He's sort of an exception to the rule. But it just feels like they I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's geared towards the
Who's
way I
the
was thinking
audience
about
for
it.
this? That's the thing.
I don't know, because my boys, when the movie stopped, they both said, "This is my favorite movie." And in the 3 weeks since we've seen it, neither of them has mentioned it once. I just feel like this is a movie that's not going to get rewatched at all. And when there are so many, when we live in this wonderful world now of Pixar and Studio Ghibli and all these great animation studios that can make really good stuff, this Mario movie just feels like its lowest common denominator. Uh, it's obviously made a ton of money, so they're going to make plenty more of these. They're already working on a way to like make a Nintendo animated universe, sort of Marvel style, which is just going to be a cash grab, quite frankly. I don't know. I was very underwhelmed by how cynical is a good word for what this movie is. It was just a cash grab to get people to the theater to see, oh my gosh, there's a character that I recognize. There's a sound I recognize of whatever. I don't know. It was disappointing considering we now live in a world where video game movies have evolved to the point where there are actually some good examples. The Sonic franchise is a great example where that is a video game with no plot whatsoever. It's just a character running from left to right. And the way they made that movie, which is live action too, which helps it, but they made that Sonic movie and that franchise actually feel like something you can invest yourself in with the characters. And then juxtaposed against Mario was just, you are not missing anything having not seen this movie.
I won't be rushing to see that one. It's kind of interesting. I think it was Next Best Picture was saying it. Like they were comparing in a way. I mean, I didn't listen to the podcast review for Super Mario because why? But I have started listening to their podcast review for Michael, just simply because I will not see that film unless I have to, because it gets an Oscar nomination. But so therefore I'm like, hey, I'm just going to listen to it for the funny discourse, because I generally don't listen to podcasts unless I've seen the film and I'm interested, in general. But this one I was like, I'm going to listen to it because I'm not going to see the film, but I want to hear what they say. And I think it was either in the Michael review or it was in their like weekly conversation that they have. And they were kind of comparing Michael to Super Mario, kind of like saying this is clearly here for the fans as a kind of, like you say, like a money grab. Get people into the cinema. For Michael, it's like to have a concert experience. With Super Mario, it's like to relive the video game kind of thing. But it's all sugar coated, like whether it's the story of Michael obviously being incredibly sanitized, or as you say, nothing really much challenging you in the Super Mario film, where you've got the chance with the audience. You've got an audience baked in. You could offer them a little bit more, but why bother? Because they're going to come anyway, right? So I thought it was a really interesting comparison. I would never have thought to compare those two. I don't know. You have obviously also not seen Michael, and I guess, well, you probably might see it because you like torturing yourself. But I mean, do you see the potential comparison like they made there?
Yeah, that's a great comparison just off the top of my head, because both of them have huge global audiences and people will show up for said person, said property or whatever.
Without really questioning what they're seeing, without wanting to engage too much and just going for like the music or the beep, 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 beep sounds or whatever.
And I mean, I'm all for like an easy, enjoyable 90-minute children's movie, but even a movie that I had zero expectation for last year, I think it came out early 2025. It was called Dogman, and it was based on like a book series that my kids love. And I went into it thinking like this is just going to be not interesting at all. And shockingly, there was a really good story at the center of it where I was actually invested in this dog policeman and his friends and whatever. And I was like, it makes no sense that they couldn't do something more with the Super Mario property than what they did. And it gives me a lot of concern for what they're going to do next in this huge universe they're building, because I think they're going to do the Marvel of it all, where they're going to try to like crank out 2 or 3 a year and eventually have this giant movie with all these characters mingling, sort of Avengers style. I don't know. I'm not very thrilled. Yes. Yes. And of course, my kids will want to see every single one of them in the theater, and so I will get roped along to all of them.
If they drag it out for like 20 years like they have Marvel, maybe they will outgrow it. Maybe.
I hope so. Maybe, yeah.
Well, so you've just like, you know, criticized this film, but the fans, of course, want the Andrew grades back again. So I guess you're still giving it a 6.5?
You know, I think I haven't checked my Letterboxd score on it in a minute.
I want comments that the grade people have been missing your scores.
They have. I think I give this a 5 or somewhere in like the 5 range. It's average in terms of, if you just watch the movie and you have no vested interest in the property, you'll be like, okay, like that was a movie, but it wasn't inherently bad. So like on a technical level, it was average. It's a very average movie that I was hoping would be at least okay. So that's kind of where I fell.
Falling asleep isn't good though.
It was not good. And there was no excuse for it. I slept well the night before. It was like a midday movie. But I
did doze off during Dune too, so you know it can happen during good films as well.
It can.
But in my defense, it was like it started at like 9:30 p.m. or something ridiculous, because I think I saw it opening night, and it was like, I don't know whether they were limited to only being able to start at a certain time, because I think it was pre-opening day. It was really weird. So I was quite tired, and it's quite a long film, and there's lots of desert. But I was only briefly, because suddenly then the sandworms attacked and I was like awake again. But yeah. So as I say, it can happen during good films. But okay. That's not to compare Super Mario to Dune Part 2.
Never.
No.
Never. On the flip side, I did watch from the comfort of my couch significantly better movies in April, both new and old. I'll run through a handful of them real quick. Then I'll kick it over to you. Give me an update on all the stuff you've watched, including your 52-week movie challenge. We'll get an update on that. I really want to talk about a few of the movies that you have seen, so I'm excited for that. Quick rundown for me, though. I continue on my Twin Peaks journey. To all of the Twin Peaks people I know out there, I finally made it through season 2. I powered through the dreck of the back half, and then I got the Criterion of Fire Walk with Me. I watched Fire Walk with Me, which is a prequel to seasons 1 and 2. Wow. It is David Lynch at his most Lynchian, possibly. So if you have a heart, it's not one that's going to be like easily palatable. And obviously, if you have not seen Twin Peaks season 1 or 2, you're going to be very confused about what's going on. I was in love with it. I think after the first watch, it is now my favorite David Lynch thing I've ever seen. So I am glad I have gone through this journey. I am now into The Return, which is it's basically like season 3, if you will, but it takes place like 25 years after seasons 1 and 2. And so I'm now into The Return, and I'm excited to continue my Twin Peaks journey. I watched The Chronology of Water, which is the Kristen Stewart directorial debut. I went into that completely blind. I assumed it was a movie about a swimmer. It vaguely is. Anyone out there who does not know what The Chronology of Water is, do yourself the favor I didn't do and check the trigger warnings, because it has some very, very heavy subject matter right away. It does not ease you into it. It stars Imogen Poots playing this real life woman I discovered after the fact.
Oh, it's a true story. Oh, I didn't realize that.
It's a true story. The woman became an author and basically wrote an autobiography about her life,
Okay.
and that's what the movie's sort of based on. Imogen Poots is incredible. The fact that she was not in the conversation for the Oscars last year is even more baffling to me.
Nobody saw the film.
That is exactly what it is. It just she was amazing. People will look back on it and go, "Wow, that was a really great performance." Also, Kristen Stewart is just for that to be your directorial debut. Kudos to Kristen Stewart for being so bold and daring as an artist, as a director, just like she is as an actor. I am excited to hear your thoughts on the swimming of it all when you eventually see it, because you obviously are the swimming critiquer. There isn't a ton of it, but she does swim in the movie.
Adding to my list. I need to start a letterbox list. People need to help me.
You do.
Yes. Viewers, listeners.
I'm going to make a note of that.
Yes. Because I've seen Naiad, obviously.
Yeah.
Tick, Tick, Boom. Andrew Garfield swims.
Yeah. We'll accompany that.
Swimming.
Yep.
Not period. Not period. Realistic swimming.
We've got our hot dog cinematic universe list, and we will have our swimming.
Yes.
A couple others real quick I saw on the Criterion channel. There's a film called Resurrection, which came out late 2025. It's an Asian film.
Yes. Heard a lot about this one. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I feel like maybe it was you who said, I think it's going to be like X.
Yes.
And you what was the movie you compared it to? I'm blanking on.
I was worried. Okay. I was worried it was going to be a mixture. From what I'd heard, people's comments on it, I was concerned it was going to be a mixture of Cloud Atlas and Tree of Life, neither of which I enjoyed.
Yes. So I'm so glad that you referenced both of those movies, which I'm not a fan of either of them. Resurrection is so unlike both of them in the best way.
Good.
It does hop through time, through different chapters, but it's much more, it almost reminded me more of Babylon in the sense that it's much more about the idea of the history of film, and each of the different chapters is set in a different era of cinematic history. And so it sort of tells the history of cinema from the silent era up until the present, with each chapter being its own little segment of style. I was blown away by the imagination of the filmmaker. I don't know if all the chapters will work for everyone, but if you just watch it as like this conceptual piece of like telling the history of cinema, wow, very ambitious. I would highly recommend checking out Resurrection if you can get your hands on it, if you have the Criterion channel.
I mean, I have it on my watch list, and I think it was like I think I've heard a couple of critics who I listen to, and I value their opinion, saying it was like one of their like top films of last year. But as I say, a lot of it was reminding me of these two particular films, and I was skeptical. But okay, good, because I know that you, as you said, you also didn't like those two, so that's good. Okay, yeah. I'll keep it on the watch list then.
I would highly recommend it. Just even as just like a piece of wow, I've never seen that on a film before. I've never seen a movie like this. It's completely unto itself. Comedies aren't always the best this time of year, but I did see one really good comedy from 2026, and it's called Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. Very silly title. It's a very funny movie that's basically about time travel, and it's not afraid to kind of reference all of the famous time travel movies of the past, the Back to the Futures of the world. I usually like to just let people kind of experience comedy for themselves. So if you want to watch a movie that's kind of silly and irreverent and its own brand of humor, and it's about a couple of guys who are traveling back in time to sort of, make sure their band becomes famous, check this movie out. It's very fun. It's very silly. It doesn't last too long. It's a nice breezy movie. It's actually in my top 4 of the year right now. Had a good time with it. On the flip side, I saw a horror movie last week called Undertone, which everyone was telling me that had seen it in the theater, that it was one of the great theatrical horror films they've seen.
The scariest film of the year so far, yes. I've heard. Yeah. And I was like,
Yes,
okay,
and so
nope.
everyone recommended that I watch it, give it my full attention, and watch it with some sort of headphones. And so what I did was I have a set of 3D headphones for my PlayStation upstairs. And so I watched the movie with these headphones on. And the movie is basically about a podcaster, and it's effectively set in one house. The entire movie is set in this one house, and it's this woman who is doing a podcast with somebody through a virtual screen, kind of like this, though you never see the other person, you just see her doing the podcast. And she has sent a tape, and the tape is a series of recordings that sort of unlocks something. And the movie is sort of like The Ring meets Paranormal Activity.
Sounds like the host, or what was it?
A little, yeah, it's got a little host to it.
Yeah.
It's got a little Exorcist to it.
Okay.
It was the first movie I can recall seeing in a while that actually left me with a sense of fear.
Wow.
It's not often,
okay.
like, I've seen so many scary movies that I don't genuinely get scared of a film anymore. This movie actually was very unsettling, especially with the sound design, with the headphones and everything. And then I immediately had to record a podcast by like an hour later, and that kind of messed me up for a second there. If you can handle really intense horror, check out Undertone. If you're even a wee bit like not wanting to get into that, it's going to unsettle you.
Yeah,
greatly.
so I'm very like, my horror is kind of like a weird sort of thing. Like, I don't like body horror if it's realistic body horror. So like if it's actually happening to a recognizable body part and this could happen. I mean, eye horror, as you know, is completely like the subgenre, sub-subgenre that is just like, no. But so like The Substance was not a problem, because apart from the prawn eating was a major problem, but and also the when she was doing the the stitches, that was a problem because that's realistic to me. Whereas, you know, like Margaret Qualley coming out of Demi Moore's back, I'm like, apart from the sound effects, which was kind of like, ew, this was not a problem. This was like, well, this could never happen. So this is just plain silly. Like psychological horror is also, it doesn't really stay with me too long either. So I'm kind of like, I don't like jump scares.
Okay. There's no jump scares that come to mind.
Interesting. Okay.
It's much more
it's
of
not
a
like
movie
Red Rooms
where,
or something, because that's psychological purely. Like you don't really see anything in that.
It's definitely not like Red Rooms. It's one of those movies where there's this foreboding sense of dread through every scene, where you're always on edge that something will jump scare you.
Right. Okay. But
it never does. But you always, there are things happening with the camera and with placement of the framing, and there are things that will greatly unsettle you without actually having to jump. It was a phenomenal horror film. I am very thoroughly impressed with the amount of people I heard tell me it was going to be great, and then it actually being as good, if not better, than people were telling me. So check out Undertone. And then, to your point, a body horror movie that I was also very excited about. It's less horror and more body. That's Julia Ducournau's Alpha, which debuted at Cannes last year and finally sort of made its way over to the States recently, and I got to see it. I, of course, have seen 2016's Raw. I've seen 2021's Titan.
Nope. No.
This is not this movie. I don't like needles. That's one of my kind of bugaboos.
no.
I don't do well with needles. This movie has a lot of needles in it.
Okay.
So out. That definitely, that was challenging. This was my least favorite of her 3 films. Though that's not to say that I didn't appreciate it, and I'm not, or I'm not glad I watched it. She kind of reminds me of David Cronenberg, where the fun of watching a Julia Ducournau film is the ideas that she's presenting. Maybe they're going to be a little messy. Maybe it's not all going to come together, but just the idea that she's willing to explore some of these things through body horror is interesting to me. The movie drags a little bit. The world that it's building is really fascinating, but it doesn't get fleshed out enough for me. I wanted a little more answers on kind of what was going on or why things were the way they were. But it deals with grief in a really complex way. And so I was impressed with the way that in her 3 films, she's told the story of a young girl coming of age in Raw. Titan is about 2 people who are trying to sort of find family and end up finding it in this weird way with each other. And then,
car.
and with the car. And then Alpha is very much about dealing with grief and addiction. And so I appreciated the movie for what it was exploring, though I didn't love it as much as I was hoping. So
Yeah.
it would be a soft recommend if you are okay with, kind of a messy movie. It's less violent than Raw or Titan.
Oh, okay. Do you
So
think that because when this debuted at Cannes last year, the reviews were pretty bad. Do you think it's because people were comparing it to the fact that like she'd literally won the Palm with her last film, Titan, and people just had such high expectations that they went in there going, "Oh my god, this is the follow-up to Titan, Palm winner! I'm so excited!" And then it just felt like it just, as you said, it wasn't as good as Titan. Do you think it might like get re-evaluated when people say, "Oh, okay, well then taken separately as a separate work of art, it's still a good film. It's just not as good as Titan," or
100% yes. Because I was talking with Hannah from Horror Hour. She'd seen it. She really loved it. I think she ranked it. I think she had Raw, Alpha, and then Titan as her 1, 2, 3, which is interesting.
Interesting.
I do think that this movie, over time, will find its audience. It's going to be sort of that cult hit movie, and I do think that sort of the weight of expectation from Titan definitely affected the way it was received at Cannes. Yeah, it was good. It would be better than most other filmmakers' works. I just have a lot of reverence for her two other films, and so it didn't quite connect with me. But it's got a really cool ending. It's got some very incredible visuals. It pulls off. It's the kind of movie where there's some CGI sprinkled throughout the film, but it's not. It's like it's so well done that it just kind of accentuates some things, and it makes me like wish more people would do CG in these little kind of ways where it just highlights things and accentuates things. All in all, a good film, just a little messy and didn't quite flesh out the world the way I was hoping it would.
Okay. All right. Well, it'd be interesting to see if I ever do actually watch her films, what order I have, because obviously there's like a few things that I know about each of the films where I'm thinking I will hate this, which makes me even think maybe Alpha might be my favorite one of the lot, simply because the others have particular things in them that I just really don't think I'm going to like seeing. So
I think you're right. I think you would find Alpha to be quite interesting as a movie.
I do like grief and bleakness and stuff like that. So
there are a lot of people talking in rooms.
Great. Well, there we go.
Surprisingly, yeah.
Wonderful. There we go. I'll look it out. Yes. Okay. The fans need your grades. No, the fans need your grades, Andrew.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
we've been called out. I keep saying we've been called out on this.
Okay. If I had to grade these all real fast, Firewalk with Me, I'm probably going to go 5-star right out of the gate, 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Loved it. Yeah, it was that good. Like I said, my favorite Lynch. I am so thoroughly impressed with that movie. Chronology of Water, I'll give that an 8 out of 10. Great debut for Kristen Stewart. Resurrection, I'm floating between like an 8.5 and a 9 out of 10, just from the sheer ambition. Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, I'll give an 8 out of 10. Undertone, I'll go 8.5 out of 10. And then Alpha, I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay.
It was good, not great.
Good. Well, so it's just that's a pretty good month. I have to say, when I first heard the title, obviously, of Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, whatever, obviously I thought it was a music biopic. Obviously.
Right. Yes.
And then it was like, no, it's an outrageous comedy. I'm like, sorry, what? About Nirvana? Kurt Cobain, this grunge band from Seattle, like from the 90s, he's killed himself. Like, what? How is this a raucous comedy? And they're like, no. It's not about Nirvana. I was like, okay.
I was talking to my best friend about it after I watched it, and I was like, man, this is really fun. He goes, isn't it a documentary about Nirvana? I'm like, no, it is not. It's confusing everyone. Yeah.
But it's great. Like, I think of a lot of people who've been like sharing their top like 5 of the year so far. I think it's been pretty much in every one. Like that, Project Hail Mary, and the Bone Temple. I've seen those ones pretty much everywhere. Somewhere in the top 5.
I've still got Bone Temple at 1. I know we've sort of, I think you call this a 2025 movie. I'm calling it a 2026 movie, but Pillion is at my number 2. Yeah. So I've got that at number 2. Then I've got Undertone at number 3. And then I've got Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie at number 4. I assume Project Hail Mary will probably play in that space as well when I see it
Yeah.
someday.
Yeah, we don't know what to do with I Swear because it only came out in the UK, right? So where do we put I Swear? Because
I
it hasn't even come out here yet, and it came out in the US like last month.
Yeah, I think I put it in my 2025 ranking because it was a BAFTA contender.
Yeah, but it's an Oscar contender for this year,
I know. So
and I haven't seen it yet.
if
So I'm
I were
counting it for
to
26 if I
if
see
I
it.
had it in my 2026, I would probably have it at 3.
Okay, wow, right?
Maybe even 2. It
Okay,
was phenomenal. Yeah,
yeah,
very very good.
yeah. I need to see that. I think it comes out in like May or June here. So yeah.
And I'm glad that there's a little bit of space from the whole
Mm,
BAFTA incident now that I do, and I've seen Robert Aramayo doing a lot of press
yeah.
right now. He's
Mm-hmm.
been really great in the press. I think this movie's going to come to life now for a lot of people.
I want to see Michael Jordan campaigning for it. Get him and Delroy
Yes.
Lindo out on the campaign trail
Yes.
for I Swear. Yeah. I think it's come out quite early now, so it may even be too early for like awards, or it's just got this I don't know how it's going to play for it. Yes, sure, it's going to have a certain, eyeballs on it because of the whole BAFTA incident. But again, a lot of people are saying, well, I just don't think they're going to touch it because of that. But I don't know. People say it's a shame because his performance actually really is award worthy,
If he was in the mix last year, I might prefer him even over Timmy.
Oh my
I think
God. Wow.
I really do think he was that convincing and
Wow.
that incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
All right. Well, I shall see that
Yeah.
probably by time for our June recap. There we go.
Okay. Okay. Well, you were all over different decades.
Oh, I
with
was
your April.
No, I was a lot of the 70s actually. To be fair,
70s. You got a 1990 movie in there, 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why don't you give everyone a little rundown of your journey you've been on?
Well, I've been trying to do a lot of 1977 prep because we have our we now have a date, recording date.
Yes, we do.
So I haven't got to the cramming stage yet, but I'm basically looking for these films are not easy to find. So whenever something pops up on one of my streaming services, I'm like, right, I kind of need to watch it now. So this month I've watched 5 1977 films. So I think I'm up to like about 15 or 16 that I've seen so far. So I'm pacing myself quite well because I did start June last year on holiday watching Annie Hall on the side of a swimming pool. And just actually I might have even started before that because I rewatched Star Wars. Anyway.
Oh.
But I might have just done that just for fun and then said, oh, actually, that counts as starting 1977 prep. Anyway, this month I saw Opening Night, A Bridge Too Far, Goodbye Girl, Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and That Obscure Object of Desire from 1977. Right, that's
a spectrum.
That is a spectrum. It is wild, and it ranges from the very good, to be fair, yes, so look at it, very good, very long, very whimsy, very surprising and disturbing, and very, very disturbing. So there you go. It's kind of in that order.
I assume the very disturbing is Louis Buñuel's Object.
Yeah. My God, I felt physically sick watching that film.
Yes,
I felt so uncomfortable and so sick, and I wanted to turn it off so many times. I think it's such oh my God, I had such a reaction to it. I don't know whether I was sending you and Amanda live reactions, going, what is this? Ew. It was so disturbing to me. It was, and although it's not, no, it was, if anybody's seen that, it's got so many triggering things in it, and I just don't quite understand who we were, I didn't quite understand what we were. I know there's a message and all this kind of thing, but there was just so many things where I was like, why are we doing this? Why? Yeah, no, it was just
he was definitely because I watched a whole bunch of his movies in prep for a guest spot. Yeah, he's a provocative filmmaker.
I know.
It's just very button pushing.
Yes, I have seen. I did Spanish cinema as a university, not as my degree, but as kind of like part of my Spanish, part of my degree. So like a sort of a fraction of my degree. And one of my optional subjects I took was Spanish cinema. And yeah, we touched on a couple of his films, and not this one. So yeah, so I know, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just like I don't know. I just was in a weird frame of mind, but I really, I was so disturbed by this film. Anyway,
on opening night, have you seen many of Cassavetes' films, or was that your first? Okay.
So that was the good one. Okay. I saw this. I don't want to say I mean, I think I said this to you as well. It's like I was surprised by looking for Mr. Goodbar. I didn't quite know what going into it, and then when I clicked on the link to watch it, it said, "This is a warning, a content warning." And I'm like, oh my God, what am I about to get into? Yeah, I'll probably leave it at that, because I think there's a few things to talk about, which we'll unpack in a couple of months, about Diane Keaton, especially with her 2 roles in 1977. So
it's got a wallop of an ending for anyone that wants to go watch that movie.
Wow, yeah. That ending. Wow. Goodbye Girl was not fun. And A Bridge Too Far. A Bridge Too Far was A Bridge Too Far was a film too long, as somebody said. So yes.
And we had both talked about Richard Dreyfuss, and we'll save it for the episode. But he was nominated for Goodbye Girl.
He won,
for Goodbye Girl. And there might be another performance that year that I prefer.
I may agree with you. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, A Bridge Too Far was definitely an hour too long. The cast was incredible. What was my review? I wrote like some kind of silly review. The cast was like the who's who, and then these randomly people pop up and like, oh my God, it's whoever is next.
It's a very Richard Attenborough movie.
Yes. I was really put off by the score, I have to say, in A Bridge Too Far. I was really disturbed, because the score to me was in complete opposite to what the actual film was about. Because the film was about the war and planning, like trying to advance and win the war, and then you've got this little whimsy score going all the time, like we're going off to war, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? Why are we playing like the Grand Old Duke of York? He had 10,000 men, nursery rhyme kind of music here. What are we doing? I was so confused. But yes. Anyway, a very worthy film, as Attenborough films are. But yeah, a little bit too long. Yes. So that was my 1977. Then for my my rewatches this month were Doubt in the Post for our Meryl episode, just out a couple of days ago. When you're listening to this, please go and listen to that. So we discussed Doubt, The Post, and also Julie and Julia. And Devil Wears Prada I am seeing in 2 days' time, which is very exciting. Then my other first watches were The Lighthouse, as part of my 52-week movie challenge in the category Black and White, which we talked about. Did we talk about that on the? We did talk about it on the. Yes, of course, because it was your choice of Rob Pattinson. So yes, and my first watches. So the drama, obviously, we've covered. Then from last year, something I'd had on my watch list for a long time, because it stars 2 of my favorite boys, A History of Sound with Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor, which I liked more than everybody else, I think. I think the first half was definitely better, where you had more of the 2 of them and their chemistry, which was fabulous. But I didn't find the second half like dragged as much as a lot of other people like seem to think. I was enjoyed it the whole way through. So I as I say, I think Josh O'Connor was a standout. So you really like notice when he kind of left the scene for parts of it. And as Amanda always likes to say, the heterosexual relationships are just so boring. So, and that was certainly the case in this. Like anything, with Paul Mescal with his girlfriend or wife, it's just it doesn't work. There's no chemistry. It's incredibly boring. But he and Josh O'Connor are fabulous. I think Josh O'Connor pretty much has chemistry with everybody. So,
and we also get that little Chris Cooper cameo. He's not in it for very long, but
so History of Sound, yes. I enjoyed it. It is quite slow. Maybe it helped that I saw it in the cinema, because then you are just generally more engaged, perhaps. But as I say, Josh O'Connor can have chemistry with everybody. And then I saw a small, short, nothing much going on, light film of Barry Lyndon. And have now listened to your podcast that you did with the Greatest Movie of All Time with Tom and Dana, and Sarah was on that as well, Sarah Shea. That was a good discussion. I enjoyed that.
What'd you think of Barry Lyndon?
It was long. Andrew, I cannot agree with you. I thought Ryan O'Neal was awful. I know it was kind of the point, because I messaged you at one point. I was like going, okay, he's terrible, but I have the feeling this is kind of the point. But it just really distracted me. His accent was all over the place. He's supposed to be Irish. The American comes out. It was awful. Then at some point, I think he tries to put on an English accent. What is he doing? I don't know. I understand that was possibly the point. I also understand why he was cast, because I did my research as well. And it was because they wanted a big box office star, and he was literally top of the box office for 1 year. And that was why he got cast. Okay, so the film is gorgeous. Every shot could be a painting is such a cliche, but it is absolutely 100% true. Every time I was like pausing, I don't know, I had to pause it because I just, I don't know, going for a drink or make myself a cup of tea or something. Every time I came back and I'm like, that's like a painting. It really is. And it's beautifully shot. I mean, the cinematography, which I think it won, right? Production design, it won. Of course it did. It is incredible. It is long, but I didn't feel the length necessarily. It took a while for me to really kind of get engaged with it, but I didn't necessarily feel the length. Like I was, every time I thought, well, this is beginning to drag, then it had some momentum and it continued. So yeah, I mean, I'm pleased I've seen it. It's kind of different to the other Kubricks that I've seen. Here's a bit of a weird one, is filmography. It's not necessarily like when you think of Kubrick, that's not what you think of, as I think you all said on the podcast. No, I'm pleased I've seen it. It's a beautiful film, and is it something I'm going to necessarily rewatch? I'm not going to do an annual rewatch like you do, I don't think, but yeah.
I'll watch it enough for both of us.
There you go. Okay, then I saw Rashomon, which was much shorter.
Your challenge.
It was much shorter. Well, yes. So Rashomon was also part of my 52-week challenge for set in a country you want to visit, because Japan is top of the bucket list. So I was like, that's lovely. That ticks that off. I don't have to watch Lost in Translation again. No, there's plenty of Japanese films I could have watched, but I have had Rashomon like on my watch list for a long time, simply because I think it's, it's one of the structures, isn't it, that is often referred to as like the Rashomon like technique, whether it was like, The Last Duel mentioned it. And I think that's how it first kind of got onto my, onto my radar. Cause I was like, what are they talking about? I mean, this is just showing my ignorance when it comes to, older, maybe older Asian cinema or something like that I was like, what do they mean the Rashomon, like structure for The Last Duel? So I think that's possibly how I first kind of, researched it and was like, oh, right, okay, this is what it is. And it's kind of like the OG sort of, different perspectives, and everything. I overestimated my multitasking, and thought, I'll just put on while I'm doing some boring admin. And I was like, no, that's not going to work, because you have to read subtitles, Heather. That's not, your Japanese doesn't work, and I'm not listening to it in German, for God's sake, no, or English, no dubs. So I had to kind of go back and restart it again. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the OG. It does it well, obviously, and I don't want to say too much, because I feel that people probably haven't seen it. So if you like seeing things, which I do enjoy seeing some different things from different perspectives and thinking, well, what is the truth? whether it's done in this structure or just generally differing, even like Anatomy of a Fall, it's obviously not that structure, but there it's kind of like, well, what is the truth, and you never really find it out. So if you like that kind of thing, this is kind of, I guess, the OG, right? So yeah.
It's
And
going to
it's
be
1.5
really
hours, so it's super
yes.
short, and it moves. And oh god, I'm also kind of having, every month I watch something with a chaotic laugh. Like last month was Amadeus. This month was Rashomon, with just like this insane manic laugh. Incredible. So I'm building the manic laugh universe. There we go, another list for us to start on Letterboxd.
Well, and what's great about Rashomon is everyone always talks about Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve in 1950. Yeah. That's also a 1950 film. Like, yes, one of the great film years right there, just off. Yeah. And I'll be covering that pretty soon to kick off next season. So that should be a really complex decision there.
Ooh, wow. I don't envy you. That's
a tough one.
Tough one. Yeah. I think you should find a way to spread the wealth. And then finally, I watched my most having seen Coda last month. This was my latest, the most. How do I phrase this? The most recent Best Picture film. Oh wait, sorry again. The most recent Best Picture winner that I hadn't seen was this one, 1992's The Unforgiven. Not The Unforgiven. Unforgiven. Yeah. I was sleeping in this film.
Yes, you were.
Oh my god. No. Okay, but this is the thing. In my defense, no, not really in my defense. It just proves that, oh my god, I've got into darkness here. Sorry, I've got to turn on second screen. You see, it's gradually got dark again.
It's not just me in a cave. You're in a cave too.
I'm in a cave, and your cave is lit and mine is not. It's 8:10 here, so it's suddenly gone a little bit darker than normal. Right. Okay, people who are just listening are like, what are they on about? Okay. Yes, in my defense, but not really in my defense, because it shows that I'm a little bit closed-minded, I have to say, and I need to get better at this when it comes to films. I just have certain genres where I'm like, not going to enjoy it. Like, not in a rush to see this. One of them is a rom-com, and obviously music biopics, because Amanda, bless her, did all the research, and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm watching YouTube clips. I'm vibing. Yeah. You'd already seen a lot of them. I had seen about 2, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm Googling, I'm ChatGPTing, and then I'm watching YouTube clips, and you didn't even get to them. Okay, but Amanda's a little bit more into music generally than us, to be fair. She has more of an affinity to music. But, she could have spent that time watching Spielberg and Nolan films, but never mind. But it's fine. Anyway, so, and another one that I've just never really been massively into is the Western. It's just not, my granddad watched them all the time. Westerns and war films, yay. He was born in 1922. So this is the kind of thing that you watch when you were born in 1922. You watch war films and you watched Westerns. So there's probably lots of these films that I've only half seen, old Westerns, Sergio Leone, whatever, older Clint films
John Wayne
as well,
stuff.
John Wayne's. They've probably all been on. I've probably seen bits of all of the Searchers, all this kind of thing. I've probably seen lots of them. But it's not something I really massively go out of my way to watch. So Unforgiven was kind of oh god, it was a Western. Clint. Okay, fine. All right. Well, I guess I'll watch it at some point, because obviously have to watch all the Best Picture winners. But it wasn't really far on the priority list. And then I was like, maybe I should just go backwards. Now I've seen Coda, which maybe I just go to the next one that I haven't seen. And Unforgiven popped up on, I want to say, HBO Max, and it told me it was only going to be there for another 3 or 4 days. And I'm like, ooh. Okay, maybe I watch this. My God. Wow. It's not a Western. This is not a Western.
No.
It's
a deconstruction of the Western.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, can I just say Morgan Freeman? I love him. Obviously he's in my favorite film of all time. He's just I know Gene Hackman won the Oscar, but to me, Morgan Freeman he's what makes this film. He's because everybody else is really not the best person, and I know he has a bad history, right? but he seems to still have a heart. He still seems to know who he is and, have some kind of humanity about him and everything. So anyway, I just love Morgan Freeman. I'm so pleased that character was there. So I really enjoyed this. And it was absolutely not what I was expecting. And there was also just like so many funny parts to it as well that I definitely wasn't expecting. Like Gene Hackman in his house and or the biographer or
yes,
my goodness,
that's the best.
Oh, so funny. It's again, like I just have to say, if people maybe don't want to see Unforgiven or because I don't know how be A Few Good Men or whatever like that, and thinking it's a Western, it's really not a Western. It's kind of it's not really a who done it. It's more like it's like a kind of a chase. It's like revenge. It's there's a lot of social commentary as well, like with women's position in society and the ownership by men and
it really also plays with sort of the mythos of Clint Eastwood's career in a fascinating way,
right? Yes,
like it's almost a meta movie before meta was a thing. It's sort of like almost winking at the camera. I had a couple of points of like where Clint is in his career at that point versus obviously the career
didn't want to do another
himself.
one, did he? Right. So that's the whole thing. Right. And it's kind of like mirrors his character who's kind of left that life behind and does get pulled in for one like last hurrah sort of thing. So
and it's got one of the great lines for me in film, which is, Westerns are lots of people getting shot and killed, and then this movie's much more reflective and contemplative when he says, like, it's a hell of a thing to kill a man, taking everything he ever is and ever will be. And it's just a really complex thought on the Western genre versus the older stuff.
And also a lot about it's a lot about appearance, because of course the whole thing is set off by the prostitute getting attacked, and because of her appearance now she is now not going to make money or get bring money in. And then the oh my god, my favorite English, what's his face, the
English Bob.
Oh my god, and I'm like, Dumbledore's in this, and Richard Harris like pops in like, what are we doing? Wow, he's great. And I the change of accent at the end, which I totally spotted, and I'm like, that is so clever. And then I read that was his decision. Like that wasn't part of the script. And he said to Clint, I want to. So he had this like posh English accent like the whole way through. And then when he gets dragged off and leaves, he's shouting the like more Cockney London accent. And that was his decision. So kind of showing that it's all about appearance. He never was this posh English person. That's just how he wanted to be portrayed. And obviously he had his biographer who was portraying him until he realized that other people were more interesting. So that was that was a really pleasant surprise. So again, people think this is a Western and are put off by it being a Western. The Western, it's more the setting. It's kind of, it's set in that kind of time with these kind of towns and these kind of people, but it's not a Western. That's just the backdrop.
Even though it's obviously a period piece or set in a specific time, it holds up very well. I find. I mean, I find it's sort of like a timeless picture. It just feels like it could exist at any point in place in time.
Yeah. Also, shout out Frances Fisher as well. I thought she was really, really good. Her campaigning on behalf of women, which now continued into the to Leslie Oscar nomination. This is Frances Fisher campaigning for women. But
So what's the next most recent Best Picture winner you have not seen?
Well, it depends what you count. If you count all the way through, it's possibly Platoon. I don't think I've seen Platoon all the way through. I feel I have, but I actually also, there's parts when I listen to people talking about it that I don't remember. So maybe it's one of these things where I watched it so long ago at some point, and then I'm like, actually, this is all completely familiar. Because there's a lot that does sound familiar to me when I, read about it or hear about it. So it might be that, but again, I might then start that and think, actually, I have seen this. So then it's going to be, hang on, I did look this up. I haven't seen the Deer Hunter all the way through. So it's that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's Platoon, and then if I think actually I have seen this, because I think I have. I just have forgotten a lot of it. Yeah, then it's a Deer Hunter. So yeah.
Platoon's one of those movies I have not seen since like grade school, when we were forced to watch it in school, and you know the teacher pauses it every 30 minutes to explain to you what's happening, and it's like I've seen it. I know the beats, but I don't.
Yeah, I do, because I do remember this is the thing where everybody's kind of a cast against type sort of thing, right? It's the Berenger Defoe, where you're so used to Tom Berenger being the kind of the nice guy and Defoe being the deranged, kind of crazy, and it's the other way around, right? In this, is that Platoon? Right. Okay. Yeah. And Charlie Sheen, right? No.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen.
Right. Okay. As like the main character, and this was kind of like his sort of breakthrough sort of performance thing, maybe? I don't know.
It probably would have been. I just watched a story of him talking about getting the part for it, actually, which is funny enough.
Yeah, okay. There's so much to it that I feel is familiar, but yeah. So that was my month.
The Deer Hunter's one of those same ones where it's like I haven't watched the Deer Hunter start to finish in so long. Yeah,
I know I've seen parts of it because I was able to, when we were doing the Meryl thing, I was like, considering like, looking at what she'd done and her nominations, and I was like, the Deer Hunter, and I know I've seen her parts of it. Like I know I've seen her in it. So I don't know. I just don't know if I've seen it all the way through. But again, I mean, this could have just been something that was on, and like, although it's not something that my mum would have had on specifically, I don't think, although she does love Meryl. So, but I don't think this is the kind of Meryl that she would necessarily just be like, oh, I'm going to watch the Deer Hunter to see Meryl, because I don't, it's not really, but I know my mum has just seen so many films. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe I just caught parts of it, but we'll see. And then we're going all the way back. Then we're probably going back to, I don't even know. I've seen most of the 60s ones as well, I think. Yeah, so I'm getting there. It's a lot of stuff pre-1960. I always say this. I think I've seen like most of them back to like Sound of Music and stuff. And then like most of them. And then it's a lot of, I have not seen this. So,
it's really just a lot of those are hard to find nowadays.
And
like, just
also
not
great as well.
Yeah,
like Cimarron, I think I've heard, but it has to be seen. So it'll be interesting to see what my very last one is. I'm getting ready to
watch 1948's Hamlet here in the next couple of days, and I'm not excited about that.
To be or not to be, as they randomly put into Hamnet. But we're Hamlet haters over here, so we just don't need to get the audience hating us again for that. The big heartless. I was already called that last month, so sorry.
All right, well, what do we have
Project
on the
Hail
way?
Mary is still my number 3 movie of the year, okay?
And I still haven't seen it.
I
so
don't
take
hate
your shots
the
at
film.
Me.
Oh my God. Good grief. All right. Please. All right. Anyway.
What do we have coming up, Heather?
What do we have coming up? We've got Meryl's just come out.
I've just done an Edgar Wright episode for Neverending Watchlist with Damon. It's available now. I'll drop it in the show notes here. We ranked all the Edgar Wright movies. It was a really fun couple-hour conversation. I just finished prep for a draft I'm doing in June with the Media Lit podcast, where we're going to be drafting Wes Anderson characters.
Good God.
Based on category. I want to say to Randy over there at Media Lit, when I signed up for the Wes Anderson draft, I didn't fully understand the context, and I'm glad I did it. It was very fun, and I'm excited for the draft, but I did not anticipate this being my hardest prep project I've ever done, in terms of having to keep mental notes of every character and what kind of personality category they might fall into. It was a very challenging project, and thankfully some of these Wes Anderson movies have these robust casts where I could put a whole bunch of people in various categories.
So whimsy and pastel and lovely.
I was dreaming in pastel colors. I was telling people. And then you've got a collab coming up
I
real soon,
do, and I need to
right?
record that actually very soon. Yeah, with our friends Jen and Sarah over at Moving Us. They are doing something about In the Mood for Love, which we love generally. I know we were all very very high on that. It was our one film that we had in common with you, me, and Amanda, that we all agreed in for our hottest couples and best chemistry. So I have a little collab on that. And I can't remember what the exact prompt was, but something about the like kind of the most I can't remember, something to do with like the most beautiful moment or something. I will remember in time. It's just something about In the Mood for Love. And and then we have, with our friends at Moving the Needle, we are going separate ways.
That's correct.
We are not fighting with them. We are dividing and conquering. And we have our Scott. What have you called it? The Last Scott.
The Last Scott Duel.
Last Scott.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It will be the very first Real Arguments series episode, which will be a lot of fun.
Yes. So I am teaming up with Simon. You are teaming up with Carl. We are Team Ridley, and you are Team Tony. So
yes, and we've got it structured where it's going to be like multiple sort of rounds. They're going to be relatively timed, and we're going to sort of do it like we were in court, effectively, where we're each going to be building a case for our team, and we're going to let the audience be sort of the jurors, if you will, and they will get to vote and determine who has made the better argument for who is the better Scott brother based on the information we put out there. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I might have to go and get some lessons from the Duncans or something like that.
That's going to be we're recording that in like a week and a half.
I know. I'm like, it's coming up so quickly.
I've got vibes going right now, and I'm hoping I'm going to let Carl just cook, because I feel like Carl has a very strong argument he's wanting to build.
Yeah, I am a little bit scared because I listened to the two of them on Damon's never ending watch list, that new format he has, like where you bring your like pet peeves sort of thing. And they were both really, really good. And I thought like I don't think Carl won. I think Simon won, but that was purely because Simon, like, I think he went a little bit below the belt because he picked something that he knows is a trigger for Damon, and they were like, that's so unfair. And but yeah, okay, well, we'll see. But
so that's coming up soon. That'll be out by the end of May. So we'll record it in a week and a half, and then you mentioned in the
Spielberg,
doing Spielberg. We've got
Matt Damon, but that's all way away.
Damon, Chris Nolan in the summer.
Oh, that small film that's coming out.
And then I'll also really quickly shout out, got a new Almanac episode dropping a week from this episode going up. So the 2019 film year, which is the Parasite Best Picture year, and got Morgan from Hall of Film, got Sydney Strange. She's a up-and-coming filmmaker on the West Coast out in California. So it was really fun to get the two of them paired together. There was a lot of choices that surprised all three of us, and will probably surprise you when the time comes. So look out for that one too. That'll do it for us for this episode. We appreciate you sticking around for a while, and for Heather, for myself, we thank you for being here. We will definitely see you next time.
Bye.